It was raining the night Sarah decided to take the back highway home. She'd worked a double shift at the hospital, and the interstate was backed up with an accident, so she figured the old county road would save her 20 minutes. She'd driven that stretch 100 times. No streetlights, just two lanes cutting through miles of pine trees, but she knew every curve of it. Or she thought she did. About 15 minutes in, her headlights caught something on the shoulder. A figure, standing perfectly still in the pouring rain, no umbrella, no raincoat, just standing there, facing the trees, back to the road. Sarah's first instinct was to keep driving. You don't stop for hitchhikers at 11 at night, not out here. But something about the way the figure was standing. It didn't look like someone waiting for a ride. It looked like someone who'd been standing there for a very long time. She slowed down anyway. Some part of her, the nurse in her, maybe, couldn't just leave a person out in weather like that. As she pulled up alongside, the figure turned around. It was a woman, soaked completely through, hair plastered to her face, wearing a thin hospital gown, no shoes. And she smiled at Sarah like she'd been expecting her. Sarah would later say that smile was the first moment she knew something was wrong, but by then, she'd already rolled down the window. Can you take me home?" the woman asked. Her voice was soft, almost pleasant, but underneath it was something hollow, like she was speaking through water. Sarah hesitated. Every rational thought told her to drive away, but the woman was already reaching for the door handle, and it felt cruel, impossible even, to leave her standing in the storm. She unlocked the door. The woman climbed in without a word of thanks. She was freezing. Sarah could feel the cold radiating off her skin from 3 feet away. But she wasn't shivering. Not once, not even a little. "Where am I taking you?" Sarah asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The woman just pointed straight ahead, down the road, deeper into the trees. They drove in silence for almost 10 minutes. Sarah kept glancing over, and every time the woman was staring straight ahead, completely still, water dripping steadily onto the seat despite the heater blasting at full power. Then Sarah noticed the smell. Faint at first, then stronger. Not wet dog, not mildew, something sweeter and much, much worse. Something she recognized from her years working in the ER. She looked over at the woman's arm resting on the console. There was no pulse in her wrist, no rise and fall in her chest. Sarah's hands went cold on the wheel. She glanced at the rear-view mirror out of pure instinct, and that's when she saw it. In the reflection, the back seat wasn't empty anymore. There were 3 more of them, sitting perfectly upright in the back seat, all wearing the same thin hospital gowns, all staring directly at the back of Sarah's head with the same hollow, patient smile. Sarah slammed on the brakes. When she looked back at the passenger seat, the woman was gone. Just a puddle of water on the leather, already soaking into the seams. She turned around. The back seat was empty too, shaking, barely able to breathe. Sarah drove straight to the nearest gas station, hands locked on the wheel the entire way. She didn't stop shaking until she was inside, under the fluorescent lights, telling the clerk everything that had happened. The clerk went pale. He told her that stretch of road used to run past the old county hospital, the one that burned down in a fire back in the 90s. 11 patients never made it out. The hospital had been torn down years ago, but the road Sarah had been driving on still passed exactly where the parking lot used to be. She never took that route again. And to this day, she says if you drive that road on a rainy night and you see someone standing on the shoulder, don't stop. Jake drove long haul for 6 years, cross-country routes, overnight shifts, the kind of driving where the road becomes so familiar it almost feels alive. He thought he'd seen everything the highway could throw at him. He was wrong. It happened on a stretch of interstate through Nevada, somewhere between exits with nothing around for 50 miles in either direction. Just desert, stars, and the hum of his tires on the asphalt. 2 a.m, running on coffee and the tail end of a podcast episode. That's when he noticed the headlights behind him. At first, it was nothing unusual. Another truck keeping a steady distance, matching his speed. But over the next 20 minutes, the gap between them started closing, slowly, deliberately. By the time the truck was close enough that its headlights filled his entire mirror, Jake felt his stomach tighten. This wasn't normal night driving behavior. This was someone doing it on purpose. He sped up. The truck sped up. He slowed down. The truck slowed down, matching him foot for foot, staying exactly 4 car lengths back. No matter what he did. Pause. 1 second beat. And then for just a moment, the truck's headlights flicked off completely. And Jake heard something over his CB radio that made his blood run cold. Static, then breathing. Slow, deliberate breathing, right through the CB speaker, like someone had keyed the mic and just left it open. Jake grabbed the radio. "Who is this? You following me?" No answer. Just that same slow breathing, and underneath it, something that might have been laughter, or might have just been static playing tricks on his exhausted brain. He looked in his mirror. The headlights were back on, and the truck had closed the distance even further. Close enough now that Jake could make out the shape of the cab, but not the driver. The windshield was completely dark, like the inside of the cab had no light source at all. No dashboard glow, no phone screen, nothing. Just black. He tried calling it in on his CB to any trucker on the frequency. A voice finally answered. An older trucker named Duke, 3 exits ahead. Jake described what was happening. There was a long pause on the line. "Son," Duke said slowly, "there's no other truck out there. I've had eyes on that stretch of road for the last hour. You're the only rig I've seen all night." Jake's hands tightened on the wheel. He looked in the mirror again. The truck was still there, closer now. And this time, its headlights flashed once, deliberately, like it knew he was talking about it. Then it started drifting into his lane. Jake swerved hard onto the shoulder, gravel kicking up under his tires, heart slamming against his ribs. He braced for impact. It never came. When he looked back, the truck was gone. Not behind him, not ahead of him. Just gone, like it had never existed at all. No taillights fading into the distance. No exit it could have possibly taken in time. He sat there on the shoulder for almost 10 minutes before he trusted himself to drive again. When he finally made it to the next truck stop, shaking and pale, Duke was waiting for him. An older man, kind eyes, the kind of trucker who'd clearly seen 30 years of strange things on the road. Jake told him everything. Duke didn't look surprised. He just nodded slowly and told Jake something he's never forgotten. 20 years ago, a trucker died on that exact stretch of highway, ran off the road at 2 a.m, trying to avoid something in his lane. Ever since, other drivers have reported the same thing. A truck that appears out of nowhere, headlights that shouldn't be able to catch up, and breathing on the CB on a channel nobody else is using. Duke says the trucker's still out there, still driving that stretch every night, still trying to warn people about whatever ran him off the road in the first place. Jake doesn't take that route anymore, but sometimes on quiet highways at 2 a.m, he still checks his mirrors a little more than he used to. Mark and his girlfriend Emily were driving home from a wedding 3 hours from home when their GPS suddenly rerouted them off the highway. "Road closed ahead," it said, recalculating. Mark hadn't seen any warning signs, no construction, nothing, but he trusted the app and followed the new route onto a narrow two-lane road he'd never driven before. Thick trees pressed in on both sides almost immediately, and the streetlights disappeared within the first mile. Emily checked her phone. No signal, not one bar. "That's weird," she said, laughing it off. "Guess we're really in the middle of nowhere." They drove for nearly 20 minutes without passing a single house, a single car, a single mailbox. Just endless trees and a road that seemed to wind on forever. The GPS confidently displaying their route, even though the signal icon at the top of the screen had long since disappeared. Then up ahead, Mark saw something in the headlights that made him ease off the gas. A wooden sign, half rotted, leaning at an angle on the side of the road. It read, "Turn back." "Okay, that's not creepy at all," Emily said, but her voice had lost its earlier laughter. Mark slowed the car to a crawl. There was nowhere to turn around. The road had narrowed to barely one lane wide, thick brush pressing in from both sides. Reversing for miles in the dark didn't feel much safer than continuing forward. So they kept going. Another 5 minutes passed. Then Emily grabbed Mark's arm. "Stop the car." There was something on the road ahead. Not an animal, too tall, too upright. A shape standing perfectly still in the middle of the lane, facing away from them, exactly like it was waiting for something. Mark stopped the car about 30 feet away and flicked his high beams on. The figure didn't move, didn't turn, didn't react to the light at all. "Drive around it," Emily whispered. Mark tried, but the moment he eased the car forward, the figure's head snapped to the side, tracking their movement with unnatural speed, still facing away from them at an impossible angle, like its neck had turned, but nothing else had. Emily started recording on her phone, hands shaking. "Just go, just go, just go." Mark hit the gas and swerved around the figure, and in the half second his headlights passed over it, he saw something he still can't fully explain. It didn't have a face, just smooth, blank skin where its features should have been. They drove in stunned silence for almost 15 minutes, both of them refusing to look in the mirrors, until finally the trees thinned out and they saw the on-ramp back to the highway ahead of them. Streetlights, signal bars returning on Emily's phone. The normal world, waiting right there. They didn't speak until they were home. The next morning, curiosity got the better of Mark, and he searched for the road they'd taken. Nothing came up under that name. He checked the GPS app's route history. The detour was there, time-stamped, exactly as he remembered it. But when he tried to search the actual road on a map, it didn't exist. No name, no listing, just an unmarked gap in the satellite imagery where the road should have been, swallowed up by trees. He showed Emily's video to a few friends. Everyone said the same thing. It was too dark, too grainy, impossible to make out anything definite. Just a shape, just shadows. Except Emily says that's not what she saw with her own eyes. And she says that late at night, she still gets a text notification every once in a while from an unknown number, no name, no contact. The messages are always the same 2 words: turn back. They've never taken that GPS app again.